halving in T-minus 10 days, but what does it mean for price action?
Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Wish you a happy and healthy start to your Sunday morning over here. Wishing you perhaps even the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest as we get ready for a Go Jesus Sunday, full of long-term analysis and actually short-term as well, as things are starting to kind of spice up in the lower-term timeframes. We did hit our target from yesterday, right around 9,100 or 9,150. And now what's next as the Sunday close for the weekly comes in and just about, I don't know, probably like 16 hours from now. Anyways, as you can see on the front dashboard right here, plenty to talk about. And we do have a little bit of short-term change of behavior. We do see the open interest getting back above 700 million marker, though I still want to see a spike up of another about 100 million to really confirm the next sort of phase of the market cycle. But that'll tie into the analysis. It's just another thing that I want to keep in the back of my mind. And then also the fear and greed index, actually for the first time in about 2 months or 2.5 months, I think, finally getting out of the fearful zone. We are actually technically in the neutral zone right now at a 45 read, and you've seen that slowly move up from March 13th low down to like around $4,000 to where we are right now, a little bit around $9,000, wrong number. Anyways, more importantly with that, we are starting to finally see it, follow through with price action. So is it adding on to the adding on to the verification of this last rally? Yes, I do think so. Climbing that wall of worry, especially alongside a major fundamental event kind of coming into visual view as well. Well, that is going to be of interest with this analysis too. So I want to document these things going forwards here. Of course, we do have the open interest chart now readily available to you. It's been beautified, except you can barely see it right there. There we go. Okay, come on, get it right there. There we go. Lovely. And documenting all of the open interest for the last like week or two now. And that'll be updated as time goes on. So check it out right there. You can grab your own free account at app.crowntrading.net. There's some links in the description below. And now let's get into the actual price action analysis. Oh, I should say I probably won't be on Twitch today. Elsa might be. I think she might be. Her handle is at Elsa69. Great handle. And I'll probably be around there. But I do need to run a few errands and eat a shit ton of beef in the meantime. Anyways, going over here to Bitcoin, and should we start off on the higher term timeframes? No, let's start off with the lower term timeframes. Follow up from yesterday's analysis. We did say that yesterday was likely to pop back up a little bit above 9,100. I believe we got that move, heading up all the way to actually 9,200 right here. Even closed on a little bit of a higher local high coming in from 1st of May at 9,000. Even it looks like. So Bitcoin still kind of making its own little ascending triangle in the short-term timeframes. A nice little bullish reaccumulation formation. We even see the volume signature further confirming that, coming to an apex pretty much later today. So we probably do see resolution on this sooner rather than later, sometime around the weekly dildo closure, I think at the very least, which is going to really start to extend into the higher term time frame analysis. But while we are right here, let's actually go back to the chart that we were looking at yesterday on good old Bit Mexico. And yes, as far as the short term time frames go, this does look to me like a retest of the blue box of peace and prosperity at $9,000. And as long as Bitcoin closes this next 4 hour dildo above it, which closes in 57 minutes and 28 seconds, so by the time that I do post this video, we should have clarity on this situation. If it does close anywhere above this last local high, somewhere right around 9,000-ish region, then I would look for another extension up to this area right here, of which we can put in another blue box for the low-term time frames. Again, only for the low-term time frames, to deliberately differentiate between low-term time frame thinking, medium time frame thinking, and high-end macro time frame thinking. This is only relevant to the low-term time frames, for the love of fucking God. Anyways, you can see some frustration in my voice, maybe. As it stands, yes, we do have a little bit of an ascending triangle going on right here, something like this. So we could make a proverbial measured move on top of this. I don't want to get too aggressive with this, so I will take a more conservative estimate, although you could be right in taking a more aggressive estimate. But what do you know? If we do pop back above the critical point of about 9,300 region, the same region as yesterday, then I would look for extension all the way up here to our top end resistance, the same area as yesterday as well, about 9,700. That area is of major interest, because if Bitcoin does tap around there, I would be looking for an overall pullback, as that is where the culmination of several pieces of resistances do align with with each other. Not just the 618 Fibonacci retracement from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of the $14,000 rally over here to our last major low right here is coming in right around that region, which is usually going to get respected in cryptocurrency land especially, but also the order block coming in from our last major breakdown in late February. Also our last major rejection on a weekly basis from late October right here. Probably better seen on a weekly maybe as well. You probably remember this one as like the China pump, right in this region right here. And of course, if we take it even further than that, we do see a long-term descending trend line coming in all the way from the $14,000 high right here on a closing basis, which does meet up with these areas as well. And I'm sure if we put on the volume profile like we did yesterday, we'll also find, hey, no, that's not what I want to see. We'll also find that there is some interest within that region, which we do see a little bit of a gap in the volume profile from about 93 where we are right, or kind of where we hit up to a little bit earlier, up to the next level right around, yes, 9,700-ish region. So I do like how it fits all the criteria right there. And overall, if Bitcoin does close even like a 2-hour dildo back above 9,300, I would look for extension to that target of 9,700-ish region, give or take about $50, and probably look for a pullback there overall. Now, back to the lower term timeframes. Of course, at the end of the day, I want to be as unbiased as possible with my bias boner. Even though my bias boner does look like short-term upside, let's look at our momentum oscillators and see what they have to kind of or maintain in order to maintain their current posturing. We do see 4-hour Stokes, nice and erect to the upside. We see 3-hour Stokes, same sort of thing, although a little bit weaker here. We see 2-hour Stokes crossing down from the higher area, but not confirmed as of yet, and hourly Stokes crossing down as well. So we see a little bit of bifurcation, which probably suggests that we're going to see an ebb and a flow here. And I want to see where these guys start to turn back around. So the hourly Stokes will remain to the downside as long as we are below 9,100. So that's kind of a nice critical point for the short term. For the 2-hour, same area, essentially a little bit below 9,100. And the 3-hour showing what do you know, 9,100 again, and the 4-hour showing will stay to the upside as long as we remain above about 8,900. So that actually is going to really round out the low term time frame analysis. As if we go back down, if we put on our drawing tools right here, we can see that this ascending triangle will get destroyed if we do even just tick below that current last spike low right around 8,900 region. I would even say 8,800 is probably is maybe a little bit of a better level if you're going like very, very low term timeframes. But as long as we are remaining above this guy right here, I do think that this is just going to reaccumulate. And overall, assuming that we get a 2-hour dildo closure, even an hourly dildo closure above 9,300, we will see another $400 rally. About $400 rally back up to like 9,700-ish region, of which that should be the next resistance for not just the short term timeframes correlated with the measured move, but also the medium and higher term timeframes, and also macro areas that we just spoke about as well. So by the same token, if we were to take out that last 4-hour dildo low at about 8,900, or even just close an hourly dildo anywhere below like 88, I would look for extension all the way back down here towards about 8,500-ish region. We'll just call it 8,550, give or take $50 right here. And I'd look for a nice little box of a range to be established. And if that area were to break, which I'm not saying that it will, but if it were to break below 85, a 2-hour dildo closure below like 85.50-ish region, especially as we would make a new low below this guy right here, I would look for extension to the downside of the medium term range. So now we're kind of differentiating between short term timeframes and medium term timeframes, and I look for an extension to the downside of about 70, let's call it 7,900 region, down to this blue box right here, which is actually correlated with our long term support trend line coming in from the March 13th low. So if Bitcoin did come back down around there, it very likely would bounce, at least for a medium time frame bounce, probably back up to the mid 8,000s. Then we'll come back and reassess if this is going to look like an actual reversal, or if it's just reaccumulation and Bitcoin keeps on marching its way to the upside. But for right now, things look more or less bullish in the short term. Granted that this area does hold right here. If that area gets destroyed, I'd look for like a $300 move to the downside to about 85 or 85.50. But assuming that doesn't happen and we actually close above here, then I'd look for another $400 move to the upside, which at about a $9,000 price point is going to be about a 5% move. On a Sunday, fucking nice, man. Fucking nice. You gotta love Bitcoin for all its opportunity that it gives us. Anyways, with that said, let's start to go into the medium-term timeframes, of which there's something of great importance right now in the making, and that is the 12-hour golden cross coming in on exponential moving averages. I'm talking about the 55 and the 200 right there. And let's actually get everything else off except for these three moving averages. So we have the golden cross moving averages and then the 21. And I do want to do a little bit of a insight into the back back test of this, of which we had a death cross right around here. Bitcoin goes all the way from 8,000 down to 4,000. Not always going to be that good. I'll preface that conversation by saying that. But we have a good example over here where Bitcoin kind of accumulates from 6,500 to 8,000 for a while, gets a golden cross after a nice pop up. Sounds a little bit familiar. Comes back down, tests the 55, and then marches its way up for about a $2,500 rally from 8,000 to 10,500. I do feel like something similar is kind of in the making over here. We probably do come back down and test around either the 21 on the 12-hour or the 55 sometime this next week. I actually would be looking for that. But naturally, the longer that Bitcoin takes to initiate that, the higher that these moving averages will naturally get, and the test, will come at a higher level. So instead of, testing down to like 8,000, it might just be 8,500. We'll have to see that in real time, but that's why we do these videos every goddamn day. Other than that, we do see a good example back on over here in 2019, April actually. So not that, about almost 1 year ago. On this major move to the upside, you do see the golden cross happening. Bitcoin spent some time reaccumulating this area right here, testing back down to the 55, and then boom, massive move up all the way from about 5,000 tests to $14,000 high, almost about a 3x from that price point. And then, of course, if we went back in the annals of history, the only other time that we've had not the only other time that we've had a golden cross, but the prior time that we had a golden cross before that was basically the one that led us all the way from like 2016 over here to 2018. So from like $400 to $20,000. So you're more than welcome to look at that one yourself, but putting the focus back on what we're looking at right on over here, I do think that Bitcoin is essentially, I'm actually switching to probably more or less long-term bullish here. However, that is, my opinion means nothing. My opinion means nothing. The areas of action are very, 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 very solid and steady, though. If Bitcoin were to break back down below that $7,900 level that we just spoke about in the medium-term timeframes, then I would be looking for some significant downside, perhaps back down to the mid 6,000s, maybe even low 6,000s. But for right now, taking it one step at a time, I do think that I do think that that's just not a part of the conversation as it is, due to the price action of the last couple of months and the way that Bitcoin's just been kind of marching its way up here alongside all the back end metrics of this market. It does align with a more bullish long-term look. Short-term and medium-term, can we have downside movements? Yes, absolutely. And I actually do think that this next week probably does test the downside. I do think that both traditional markets and Bitcoin are going to test some downside this week. However, testing downside is not the same thing as like a reversal on trend long-term. So with that in mind, let's go back to the 12-hour and let's look at momentum oscillators here as well. We do see 12-hour stocks looking to cross the upside once again. Let's see what price point they're going to need to hold, again with the critical level of 9,100 for the lower term time frames in mind. And what do we see? We see that this will cross back up to the upside inevitably, funnily enough, as long as Bitcoin remains above 8,800 on the next tick, coming in 4 hours and 48 minutes and 31 seconds. So what does that mean? That means that as long as Bitcoin holds that last prior spike low, essentially, I mean, even like $100 lower than that, as that was 8,900, I believe, on Mexico, then we will see these cross back up to the upside, and I would look for at least 9,300 to get hit and tested again, and likely it does get taken out, at which point I would initiate that next move about $400 higher to 96 or 9,700-ish region. And that's what sets up the weekly for potentially a pretty damn good close. Although, depending on how the weekly closes, I could be looking for a pullback this week or looking for continuation this week. Speaking of the weekly, should we get there now or should we save it for later? No, let's march up methodically on all these time frames, but still there's a few more things to say about the 12-hour. 12-hour historical volatility percentile, we've been looking at this for a very long time. You are really starting to see it expand. This is exactly what we were speaking about, although I was looking for it on the other side, to be fair. But at the end of the day, volatility is direction neutral. It's just telling you that volatility is coming, baby, and volatility we certainly do have. So we have a 2-month-long contraction. The last time that we had something similar like this was back in actually December 2019, before a $4,000 rally. And what do you know? Right here, we have thus far a break right around that first $1,000 split to the upside. So I do think that we're in line with that. The time before that we had about a 2-month-long contraction phase was back on over here in November 2018. That was from 6,000 to 3,000 before setting up for basically like a 4x reversal off the lows as well. And the time before that was going all the way back here to April 2018 before a pretty nice move to the downside from 9,800 all the way down to like 6,000 base. So again, this typically does precipitate pretty massive moves to the upside, to both the upside and the downside, and usually more than $1,000, we'll call it in that sense. So I do think that that looks overall good. There is something of consideration here, though, in the sense that the 12-hour RSI likely will make bearish divergence with any other move above our current 9,300 high, or what is our last high on a closing basis? No, actually 9,000. It's actually just 9,000. So, any other move to the upside, we probably are going to start to create some divergences here, which is why I do think that if Bitcoin were to hit, especially around 96 or 9,700, we will likely see a downwards move from that region, and perhaps even like a down week, just in this next incoming week. As Bitcoin can afford to give up some of its gains here, especially as it does approach these higher time frame regions. But definitely keep that in the back of your mind's eye, because it will very likely come into play. I do think that sometime this week, likely, especially if Bitcoin closes on a higher high, on this next tick, especially, it will be in the making. It won't necessarily be confirmed just yet. I would look for continuation first if that were to happen, and then likely confirm it. And again, we'll talk about that, when it happens, probably later this week. Daily, what are we looking at on daily? So I was looking at the Trollander bands yesterday, and I said the top Trollander band yesterday was coming in at like 8,900, I believe it was. And as long as we close above there, trend is still on. And what do you know? Where did we close yesterday? We closed 89.80. So I believe that we did close above the top side of it. Yes, we did, just barely. And where are we getting rejected from thus far today? Actually, the top side band once again. Where is that coming in around a few ticks below 9,200, but still a damn good point to be aware of. If Bitcoin does close this next 12 hour above 9,200, or especially the daily, I would look for a trend to extend all the way to the upper 9,000s. Like I said, about 9,700, give or take a few bucks. And that's what I'd be looking for on that. By the same token, we actually will be having a golden cross on the daily exponential moving averages, probably come in like a week and a half to 2 weeks, assuming that Bitcoin holds $8,000 base. So as long as that area is kept sacred, well, Bitcoin longer term looks better. Looking at the daily momentum oscillators, we do see that daily stocks are actually coming down here, and they will remain to the downside as long as we are below 93.30. So very, very good that these areas do match up with each other. That's our low term time frame a gatekeeper as well. Essentially 93 is what I'm looking at. On top of that, we do see, what else do we see? Yes, we do see a trend line here on daily Stokes coming in all the way back down here. Now, I do believe that you can make multiple trend lines actually, or naturally you should be able to. And this more aggressive one right here comes at the edge of the bullish control zone. So I would be looking for it to actually come back down around here and then bounce back again. So that's why I am thinking a little bit of a pullback maybe in these next few days, and then probably another attempt to the upside, at which point we'll see if momentum oscillators are kind of like spent at that point, or if they are ready for, ready to come back a little bit. But that also means if we break below the bullish control zone, I would look for a free fall actually all the way back down to the bearish control zone and test that region, probably bounce there as well. So the question is, do we get continuation for another few $100 move higher here first, or do we get a pullback here first down to like 8,000 or so, or at least 8,500? Well, I do think that I think it's actually a little bit more likely to get short-term continuation to the upside. But again, I'd be going off of the critical points more than anything else. And what's up, Marcus Henriksen? Good to meet you, man. Can't say your name properly, but good to have you here. Anyways, looking at daily, so our volatility percentile basically operating the same way as a 12 hour, so I do like that as well. And like I said, keep an eye on that 9,300-ish level. If Bitcoin does close this next daily above there, trending is still on, and 97 or 9,800 is certainly in the cards at that point. Daily RSI will probably not be making divergence if we do close on new highs. But again, here, there's actually no real divergence to be spoken of. So it's only the 12 hour that's kind of working on it right now. Could formulate it, but a few more things would need to happen first and foremost. Looking at daily Jewel, it's starting to fire off warning signals, but that's not a sell signal at all in any way, shape, or form. For the love of fucking God, if I got another fucking message about that, I will perhaps lose my mind, which is all my fault. Looking at the 12 hour, do we see a signal forming another? No, not at all. It's giving warning shots, but that can still take a few weeks to play out. Even the lower term time frames, like a 4 hours, maybe lining up, but it's not going to be there for a little bit of time. So it's still not actionable as it is. But it is firing off warning signals maybe in like the next week or two, or yeah, probably next week or two, perhaps we'll have something to look at there. Anyways, okay, what else we want to look at? Okay, so we've gotten through all the lower term time frames and medium term time frames. Let's maybe take a quick look at the 2-day. 2-day showing very obvious, very obviously that 8,400 is a nice critical point. If Bitcoin does even just tick below 8,400, I would look for extension all the way down to like 7,900, the same areas that we spoke about on the lower term time frames. Again, just sort of further enhanced by our look at the higher term time frames. But I would say that any sort of a closure below, especially 88, and we likely at the very least test 8,500, so another $300 move. And if 8,500 does fail, I would look for extension all the way down to 7,900. That's where things get a little more interesting for the downside look. But I would look for bounces off this area first and foremost, and also this area as well. At the very least on the short term, this one certainly on the medium term, and then we'll come back and reanalyze it on the higher term time frames. Is there anything else obvious on the 2-day? 2-day still up there, but that's okay. You expect that during a strong trending move. 2-day RSI reaching for the bullish control zone for the first time in a very long time. All of those are good things long term. Doesn't mean that we can have some short term downside. Looking at 3-day, looks okay. I'm not seeing anything like too unique about the 3-day right now. I remember there was a halter or long signal on the daily jewel. Yeah, it's a daily jewel right here. Was it 12-hour? Or maybe it was CMEs. No, it was CMEs. That's right. It was CMEs. This one was the more obvious one in hindsight, giving you a halter or long signal on the 20th of April and then further confirming it on the 21st. That was here at 6,900 and then basically 7,000. So we've gotten a $2,000 rally on top of that. Is it relevant to think that signal is already played out? Maybe, yes. But what's also happening at the same time is we still got plenty of room here on the jewel. And also on top of that, we're about to cross the 21 to the upside of the 55, which if you're in the TA program, you know the relevancy of that and you know how to play that. Doesn't necessarily mean that you just fucking long it right here, but I would be looking at that as a longer term better thing. And if Bitcoin did come back down around and test upper 7,000, low 8,000, I'd probably be looking for a big boy bounce there, without really seeing it in real time just yet. But getting out the old crystal ball, I would be looking for a big bounce at the very least. We are going to see daily Stokes likely cross down when they open up later tonight as well, assuming that the open is anywhere below 9,000. So that is a critical point for CMEs, but I'm not really seeing it mediated actually on spot price action. The spot price action critical points are about 9,300 to the upside and an 88 to the downside for the short term. So let's go back to spot price action and let's look at the weekly now. So now we're starting to get into a little bit more of the higher term time frames, I suppose. And what does the weekly look like? The weekly looks pretty damn good as it stands right now. Any sort of a closure here or higher is going to bode well for the long term. Again, doesn't mean that we can't have some downside. I do think that this week probably does test at the very least the mid 8,000s and perhaps even as low as the upper 7,000s. But I do still think that even if it came back down and tested around there, it would be more or less okay. And we see a very similar interplay between this and traditional markets. Traditional markets, people are going to say that it's a rejection right here. It is a rejection, and I do think that traditional markets are going to come down this week as well. But just like traditional markets, I do think that the low is in here. I think it's very likely the low is in. And I have been saying this for a while, for like the last month and a half now, perhaps. And now I actually do think that we are going to get a threatening move to the downside, which is going to get everyone extremely bearish again. I'm almost positive of it that over this next week or two, if this price action comes back down to even like 260 or even 265, you're going to hear people screaming that new lows are coming for traditional markets. I'm not so confident on that. I do think that there is some downside here, to be very deliberately clear, and to address specifically a conversation we were having yesterday. I'm short-term bearish on these things. I even think Bitcoin probably has this week down as well. But very, very likely the low is in for me. This is capitulation volume. This is climbing the wall of worry right here. And from a volatility perspective, we have absolutely redlined the weekly, which historically speaking has been good inflection points on the market. We're talking about the last one right here before that last major melt to the upside. We're talking about this one right here before a nice melt to the upside as well, making new highs. This one right here calling this low. This one right here calling this rally. This one right here calling this major low. This one right here calling this major low. This one right here, this was 2008, 2009, by the way, calling this major low. We even see actually divergence on volatility as price action makes lower lows, and then several examples back before that, going all the way to 2000. We can go even further than that if we really wanted to, but I don't really feel like doing that right now. Now there is one point of contingency to that analysis, in the sense that We have not really, well, we have seen major lows being put in on traditional markets without bullish divergence on weekly RSI, but it is more unlikely. Now, historically speaking, anytime that we've gotten this low to like the 20 read, it has been pretty big inflection points for comparison on weekly RSI. In 2008, we got all the way down to like 16, or about 16 it looks like, compared with about the 21 spike that we had in early March. So these are extremes here. These are extremes historically speaking. However, again, doesn't mean that we can have some short-term downside. This is where I really think that people like lose their understanding of technical analysis, because technical analysis does not, like, if you're bullish on the higher term timeframes, if you think that the lows, and it doesn't mean that every fucking day for the eternity of eternity from now on is going to be a green dildo pixel just growing, pixel by pixel. No. There's going to be an ebb and a flow of market, obviously. Yes. So, I can believe that, I do believe that there's a long-term low in here. But I also do believe that it's going to be coming down this week, probably coming back down and test around 265. If things get a little bit crazy, maybe test down around like 255 region. But I do believe that we probably form a nice long-term, the next local low somewhere here, either 270 is going to be an area of interest, although I don't think that we'd bottom out there. 265 is the next, or 265 to 262 is the next area where I really think it actually could formulate a bottom. And then if things get a little bit crazier, I'd be looking at 252. And then if things get really crazy, I'd be looking in this pocket down here, somewhere down around 240 to 243 region. All of those areas would be nice. Maybe we even come back down and fill the gap down around here, possible. But overall, until we really break back down below, let's call it like 230-ish, 235, I don't believe that there's going to be new lows in here. Now, I understand that that's like, pretty damn close to the overall low already, being that the overall low is all the way down at 218 and a quarter. But overall, we will see these ones in real time as price action falls through. But for this week, I do think that probably going to come back down at least to like the mid 260s, maybe 270, something like that. And then we'll come at it after that. I want to see it in real time here. We are seeing a contraction phase on historical volatility percentile. And we are seeing the daily RSI kind of tip back on over here as well. So I do think that, it's time to kind of test some downsides, see how real this rally has been. But so far, I do think that has been okay. And it is indicative that we do have likely a long-term low in, despite all of the people screaming that the world economy is going to go into the gutter. I mean, it kind of already did go into the gutter, I do think. And the realistic thing about this is that the stock market is a forwards pricing mechanism. It's thinking 30 years in advance. So when we're talking about a virus like this coronavirus, which kind of did you could think of a lot of reasons of why this happened, just straight up price action, perhaps being one of them. But if you are thinking that the coronavirus catalyzed this catastrophic fall, I think it would be equally as relevant to say that the coronavirus, it'd follow on the same logical thread that the coronavirus itself is not a permanent thing. I do understand that there are some politicians from California and maybe even New York saying that it's going to, take until like 2021. I highly doubt that. I'm no expert, but the reason why I highly doubt that isn't because I'm like a virus expert. It's because I think I do understand people's emotions rather well. And the thing with people's emotions is that people are going to get fed up with this probably pretty damn soon, probably in the next month or two, as realistically, the measures that have been taken are obviously working, which means that like people who don't understand statistics are going to be basically saying, okay, so the numbers are down, everything looks fine, we're going to go back to work whether you like it or not. That's just fucking Americans, man. Americans are for the most part free thinkers, I think, in the ways that other countries are not. Maybe I'm just being misguided there, but Americans, like, what's their identity? Freedom. Although are Americans really free? That's a whole nother conversation. But it is kind of like their identity, right? Their ego. And I'm speaking as someone who lives in full time in Europe and has no real plans to go back to America ever, or at least as long as I don't have to. You never know, man. You never know. But the main thing with that is that when people see that there's not really any like death toll, or sorry, they don't see the death toll numbers going up, which they're not going to go up because of the measures taken. Well, they're going to start to go back into the streets, as you do see already. And most of the rest of the world seems to already kind of being open up as well. Finland never really closed down all that much. Like, we kind of put a quarantine on the greater Helsinki area, but you can still go outside. You can still do what you want to do. There's not police officers coming up to you and saying, hey, you have to go back. No, none of that. Most stores, pretty much all stores are open, and Sweden, our neighbor, is never even closed down. They didn't even bother. Norway's already talking about opening up, and several other countries in the EU already talking about opening up. I'd imagine that, once you start to see a few of the dominoes fall, it'll just be a matter of time before the whole world kind of joins on in. So with that said, I'm getting way off track here. Sorry about that. I probably said a whole bunch of shit that offended a whole bunch of people, which I'll see in the comment section for sure. And well, I apologize in advance, but yeah, feel free to regale me anyways. But yes, my point is that with the stock market pricing these things in about 30 years in advance, you have to imagine that the end of the virus is likely to come at some time. It's probably not going to be for forever. I'd say it's very unlikely that it's going to be for forever. It's probably going to run its course, whether we get herd immunity or whether it actually does, or whether we get a vaccine or something like that. It's probably going to take, at most maybe a couple years. And so the stock market is already pricing these things in. This initial shock right here, to me, that is the extent of the virus as we knew it at that time being priced in. So I do think that it is a little bit misguided to think that this market's just going to fall down over because, you found the secret Da Vinci code that says that this virus is going to kill everything. I feel like the market's mostly priced us in. We probably are going to come down here to one of these relevant levels, whether it's the mid 260s. I think at the very least the mid 260s or 245 region. I do think that we put in a major low right there. We'll see it in real time. I don't want to make a call before then. Not that I make calls anyways. My calls are fucking god awful to begin with. You should already know this. But levels I can do, and that's all that matters as a trader. As a trader, you're measured by your financial account. As an analyst, you're measured by likes that you get on a fucking Twitter post, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, let's go check out NASDAQ futures and E-mini futures. We already looked at them actually before. Again, looking short-term toppy here. I do think that we have a top in. Same thing with E-mini futures. And I think that we're going to see Bitcoin do the same sort of thing. It's a very similar chart right here. Maybe another grind up of the highs and then spend this week coming back down a little bit and testing the downside. Doesn't make me bearish overall, but I do think that, short-term probably down, medium and long-term looking pretty good. Let's also keep in mind that the monthly closed rather well as well. So if things did come down here, I would look for at the most this month, maybe like 7,500, 7,550-ish region. I would look for a bounce there, and I would look at that as a major opportunity. Long term, the levels here are clear as fucking day. Any sort of a move back above this spike high right here at 10,500 or the next monthly closure above this spike right here at 93. Let's actually get a fresh chart let's get another fresh chart. Let's do something like this. Or a monthly closure, especially above 9,400. That is going to break a multi-year long trend going all the way back to 2018. And I would look for a massive move up at the very least to test around our last major high. At the very least 11,500, which is where the weekly starts to change around again. But we don't even need to go to the monthly to see that. We can just stay here on the weekly. Any sort of a weekly close above the last spike high right here at 10,150. Depends on your exchange, by the way. Any sort of a weekly close back above there, I would look for extension at the very least to 11,500. Any extension to 11,000, any closure on a weekly basis above 11,500 is a breakage again of a multi-year trend here as well, getting rejections in this region, giving you the first major breakdown in January 2018, getting you the second major double top in February 2018. It's better seen on a daily maybe, and then of course a couple of fake outs right here in July of 2019. And then again in August of 2019. So this area is massively tested. The volume profile is also going to further confirm this. As you can see, there is a massive loss of higher value nodes anywhere above this level at about 11,500. So what does that say? It says that we're going to get a major change of behavior. That's when the people looking at $20,000, they have not just they're not just dreamers, but they're probably going to be right. Any sort of a weekly closure above 11,500, especially 12,000, and I would be targeting moves at the very least to 16,000, and realistically, there's just not really anything stopping you from 20,000 and very likely beyond. So that's what's at stake for those major levels, but it's all being beheld in by, first and foremost, on a weekly schedule, this 10,150 level right here. As long as we're below there, there's no like real interest in even talking about that from a long-term perspective. But I do believe that for the purpose of thoroughness, especially on a Sunday long-term analysis day, that's what I'd be looking at, and further confirmed by all the signatures that you see on the screen. Not only that, but also momentum oscillators. We do see on the weekly RSI, we actually are working on, I think that this is actually even better looked at on CMEs, which I'll get into in just a second again. But we do see that we have a very long-term, what do you want to call it, a descending channel? Do you want to call it a falling wedge? Regardless of what you call it, it is typically bullishly resolved. And with any sort of a closure, especially on this next weekly RSI back above, like, I want to be more conservative here, and let's actually go to CMEs. Yeah, CMEs looks a lot more reasonable, and I'd actually wait for CMEs. I would not trust Finex data for that one. CME is going to be probably better, and any sort of a weekly total closure, especially above this level right here, kind of correlating with this spike high. When was this? Yeah, in April 2019. I would look for this to consider this resolve to the upside. This one would be more of a falling wedge. I'd be looking for a test all the way up to the top side of the critical zone for the bullish control zone. That likely accompanies a move up to 11,500-ish region at the very least, and then we get to decide from there. So I would say keep your eyes on that. Obviously, it's not going to happen it could happen on this next one, on this next week of price action. But what I'm thinking right now is that we're kind of like grinding towards a resistance. We probably do reject from that resistance, come back down, test around the neutral zone, and if things get picked up there, that would be a damn good signal, a really fucking classical signal that we are going to see it actually reaccumulate and then boom, have a big move up and actually break that critical area and transpire those next multi-$1,000 moves into 10,500 first and then $11,500 after that. That's where the macro picture really starts to change around, and I didn't really talk about this as much as I probably should have, but the monthly, right? The monthly had such a good closure. It had such a good closure long term, closing above all major movement averages. Even I thought that you can never say that you think something is impossible as a trader, because if you've been trading long enough, you know that that's just not true. But I was definitely not counting on it, I'll put it that way. But this last monthly closure was so good that it actually forced the monthly Stokes back up to the upside, which will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin price action is above is basically above the 21 exponential moving average at 7750-ish region. So Bitcoin did come back down and test there this month. Actually would be looking at that as a major buy, at least for a nice bounce on a medium-term time frame for another, probably $500 play, maybe even $1,000 plus play. But as it stands right now, we are not just crossing the momentum oscillators back up to the upside on Stokes, but also RSI crossing back up above the exponential. So any sort of a monthly closure, especially above 93 or 9400, long term, extremely good. Extremely good. And also the monthly Joule signal is looking like it's a holiday long signal here too. Now, I don't trust that one all that much, because I do think that the monthly Joule is like, it doesn't have enough price action history really. Realistically, it's only been going like since this period right here. We don't even have the third one kind of populated there, which is, makes it less relevant in my opinion. Other than that, what else do we want to look at? I suppose this is the time to go go look at some more Bali indicators, which, by the way, Bali is in the process of shoring up all of his codes and whatnot, and he'll actually be offering it for a subscription soonish, I think, which we can actually mediate through our app, I believe. But don't bother with that with him right now. We'll make it all very, 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 very obvious for when that comes out, and we'll also be given a free trial as well, because I think that probably does help. Anyways, okay, cool. So we're on the low term timeframes here. Let's mark off these areas. So again, short term timeframe ranges, 8,800 is the gatekeeper for that next move to the downside, about 8,550. That's where the medium timeframes change and transpire another move back down to like 7,900-ish region. By the same token, to the upside, 7,300 is the area of interest. But realistically, remember, all of the momentum oscillators on the low term timeframes will remain in a bullish posturing if the next hourly and 2 hour delta closes above 9,100. So let's see what that's going to look like. Let's see what the probabilities of that is. And let's go on over here to our lovely probability chart. And what do we have? Hold on, sir. All right, so we're looking at daily close right now. We're keeping on the current bars, and let's do first 9,300 to the upside for the for short-term ranges, and 8,800 to the downside for the short-term range as well. So to the upside, actually pretty damn good probabilities here. A little bit under 25%, and for the downside, actually still relatively high as well. So both sides are kind of coming into agreement with each other. We haven't seen this for a while, and this is again only the short-term range, only the short-term range, not the medium or the higher term time frame range. Well, yeah, well, true the downside, it's not. To the upside, you could say that, because above 9,300, I'm looking at 9,700 region. So let's see what it would be to get the medium term downside range right here, which I have at like 8,500. You could probably say 8,550 as well. And then even like a tick below 8,400 probably does it. That probability is significantly lower, just above 4%, as you can see. And so I don't think that Bitcoin's going to be breaking the medium term time frame range to the downside today. If at most, we could maybe test it, but I think more or less we're going to be holding in this range. My personal bias is probably test a little bit of upside and set it up for potentially a pullback sometime this next week or two. Looking at the above target probability, obviously the same, but let's look at the critical level that we saw from the low term timeframes at 9,100. Let's go down to a 4-hour total time frame range as well, and actually pretty fucking high, especially in the next 21 minutes. It is showing a 69. Oh, great number, 69 spot, almost 69% for that measure. And obviously the rings are squeezing to the upside here. Now this is on current. Let's put it on future. See how that kind of changes things. Still the same. In fact, the above target probability actually a lot less. It's about half, a little bit less than half, at just under 31%. But you can see that the upside is still more probable speaking, more probable speaking from a statistical standpoint. Let's see. Let's go back to current here, and I just want to look at the higher term time frame range. It's called 9,700. And for the lower target range, we can just keep it at 85 still. And I'm curious what this would show on a daily. So what is the probability that we close above the top side of the more medium and long term range? Actually, just below 3.5%. The below target probability, same thing as the same number before. So again, short term ranges are still geared towards the upside. I would say that's further confirmed by this being, well, essentially an ascending triangle, and I'd kind of holding on to that view, especially as long as we are above about 8,800, or even more aggressively above 8,900. Right where this wick is, actually 89.10.5 on Mexico. As long as we remain above there, I don't really see any threat of like a short term downside move to 8,500. But if we do take that out, plus a closure below 88.50, we'll call it, could probably mark to the middle. I do feel more confident with 8,800, although 8,900 technically probably does get it. Look for another extension down like $400 to 8,500 region. That's where the medium time frame ranges start to get a little more interesting. If we do break that, I would look for a move down here. If not, well, path of least resistance right now is, you already know. Anyways, I think that's a good place to shut off this video, or maybe we want to look at some of the top shitcoins. Oh, I need to address this. So I've been getting this comment for, I don't know how many videos long, man. And this person is very persistent in asking for an analysis of Stellar, because he believes that Stellar is leading the market. Well, my dear friend, let's give you your due diligence. Why have I not been speaking about Stellar, or just about any altcoin for that mark? Is Stellar leading to the upside here long term? What do we have? 3-year long downtrend. 3-year long downtrend. Lower lows and lower highs on a weekly. And the death cross on the weekly moving average just happened. Wait. You bastard. God damn it, it's not working right now. You goddamn bastard. How dare you ruin my flow? Anyways, whatever. No, not talking to that person with that, but my computer is the bastard here. Is Stellar leading to the upside? No, it's a shitcoin that has been going down for 3 years straight. It's just getting a little bit more of love on this last move to the upside, percentage-wise probably, because it's been getting beat up more, because it gets beat up more to the downside as well. It's the same thing as, probably like Ripple, I'd imagine. Probably the same chart here. Look at this. Just having a nice up move. Yes, indeed. But is it leading the mark to the upside? Fuck no. Fuck no, man. what is the obsession with? What is the obsession with multi-year downtrends? I just don't understand. I mean, I don't get it, sir. In fact, this would be a pretty damn good place for this thing, for this hot steaming pile of high technology, highly esteemed technology, actually, to come back down probably to like 6 cents or something like that. It's all just a bunch of FUD, Krown. There's even a head and shoulders on the RSI. Yeah, I'd be looking for a move back down to like 6 1/4 cents. No interest in something like this, man. This is why I typically don't cover altcoins, because they literally all look the fucking same. What is the difference between this chart? This is Stellar, by the way. This is the one that's leading the market. This is Stellar. This is Ripple. This is Neo. This is Tron. This is Zcash. This is BNB Cash. Actually, this one does look different. So to be fair, it does look different. But that ain't Stellar. And that's what I have to say about that, man. So I'm going to go about my day of still not including Stellar into the analysis. Mr. Buterol, what's he doing? Looking a little bit stranger than Bitcoin, a little bit more tired than Bitcoin here, but still in an uptrend, to be fair. I'd be looking for I think Bitcoin's levels are a little more obvious, so I'd be just sticking with that. As far as a weekly goes, though, weekly closure anywhere here or higher is good, although I do still think that this one probably does pull back this week as well. Litecoin, same thing. Actually, death cross coming as alongside a rejection of the 21, not so good. If the weekly does close above 51 bucks, though, I'd look at that as good for extension all the way to like 58. But for right now, I think that we're going to be playing out some downside this next week, most likely. But you know, whatever Bitcoin does, these altcoins are going to follow. That's typically why I don't talk about altcoins. Very, you know, not always. There's going to be like a few one-offs here and there that do their own thing. But for what it's worth, the Bitcoin dominance chart is bullish as fuck. So most alts versus Satoshis, they're going to get absolutely cream pied in a bouquet sandwich. And I'd be looking for this long term to pop back up to like 70% and probably even break out above there to mid 70s. So alts versus Satoshis are going to get very, very likely wrecked to beyond belief. Are there going to be a few major gainers here and there? Yeah. Are they going to do well versus the US dollar? Probably, if Bitcoin goes up versus US dollar as well. But will it go up proportionately compared to Bitcoin? Unlikely, no. At least on the whole. There's going to be a few one-offs here and there. But on the whole, I would be massively bullish on this. Just set in a higher low, anywhere above 67% on a weekly closure, and I'll be targeting 70% plus. Going back to Bitcoin, and we've already kind of covered up the low-term time frame ranges, so perhaps this is a good place to leave it off. Again, 73. 88 or 80, technically 89. It's technically 89. I keep on saying 88, but that's because I want to be more conservative here. 85 for midterm, and long term to the upside, 97-ish, we'll call it. So other than that, I'll be signing off now. Or actually, we could use this to the same side as well. Yeah, it would show 8,500 if we do break to the downside. So fair enough. I do feel justified in that as well. Anyways, that's gonna do it for right now. I'm gonna be signing off. Take care, and until next time.